As I finished my sophomore year, everybody started talking about the SAT. There were prep camps to attend and books to buy and opinions everywhere on what to do and what not to do for this massive test. So, naturally, I decided to make use of every tool at my disposal. And I'm Irish, so I know all about luck. I made sure to knock on wood every time someone mentioned the test results. I found my lucky pencil, my lucky socks, my lucky shirt, a rabbit's foot, and a 4-leaf clover. I avoided mirrors, ladders, black cats, and the number 13 4 months before I was scheduled to take the exam. I had done everything right, and I was all set to get a killer SAT score. Or so I thought. When the results came back, I noticed that perfect 1600 I was so sure of came out a bit lower. A lot lower, actually. My score report said, "At least you put your name on the paper." I was shocked. Hadn't I done everything to ensure that I would have the best luck ever? Disheartened, I decided to look into why my well-intentioned efforts hadn't quite paid off. And I found that I'm not the only one who believes in harnessing the power of luck. According to a Gallup poll, 1 out of every 4 Americans is superstitious or, moderately stitious. And while believing in luck isn't always necessarily a bad thing, when we start to rely on it too much, we begin to feel anxious and out of control. We need to focus on maximizing our own abilities rather than our luck. So today, let's first cross our fingers and examine why we believe in luck. Next, throw some salt over our shoulders to understand how it impacts our lives. And finally, step over the cracks to discover what we can do to make every day a lucky day. Knock on wood. In hindsight, I realize I might have gone a bit overboard trying to improve my luck for the SAT. I refused to trim my toenails at night, as suggested by an Asian superstition. I don't even know the story behind that one, but this got me thinking about the idea of luck and where it comes from. Concepts of luck have existed throughout history, across virtually all societies. For instance, the common superstition that it's bad luck to walk under a ladder dates back to ancient Egypt. And the superstition that tells us that a black cat crossing our path will bring us bad luck comes from medieval Europe. Although these superstitions have diverse origins, they all have one thing in common. They're rooted in an attempt to control the uncontrollable. There are so many factors in our lives that we can't control. But by participating in these superstitious behaviors, we feel as though we have some sort of power over chance. To better understand why we believe in luck, let's look at a concept called the locus of control. This is an important piece of our personalities that was first studied by psychologist Julian Rotter in 1954. It reflects how we view our lives and the things that happen to us. Someone with an internal locus of control believes that they shape their lives and futures, while someone with an external locus of control believes that external factors, like luck, shape what happens to them. According to a study conducted by Dustin Griffin of Eastern Kentucky University, those of us who are identified as having an internal locus of control are more likely to have low levels of stress and high levels of self-esteem, while those of us who are identified as having an external locus of control are more likely to have low levels of self-esteem, high levels of stress, and even depression. Furthermore, a study conducted by Italian psychologists Elisabetta Sigoni and Maria De Caroli in 2015 concluded that teenagers who are identified as having an external locus of control are also more likely to be superstitious. Although these superstitious behaviors may seem entirely harmless, it's clear that beneath the guise of luck lies true pain. So, I looked back on that fateful day I took the SAT, trying to figure out what I had done wrong. And I was not happy to hear that, according to a friend, I had been canceling out my luck by crossing my fingers on both hands. She said it was like PEMDAS or something. I couldn't believe that these practices that once had me feeling so confident now left me more doubtful than ever. Consequences of relying on luck often follow this same pattern. Excessive reliance on external factors makes it easy to blame anything other than ourselves when something goes wrong. I saw this play out this past spring when seniors began to hear back from colleges. Every year, schools are becoming more and more selective, with prestigious universities across the nation, rejecting up to 95% of applicants. And for many students, their entire self-worth hinges upon what grades they earn and what colleges they're accepted by. So, being rejected from your dream school is heartbreaking. And it's easy to write off these tough decisions as simply bad luck. But when we throw our hands up and chalk it up to a tough break, we lose the opportunity to use rejection as fuel to grow and improve ourselves. Believing that success only comes from luck can also cause us to feel as though we don't deserve the victories we get. And when we don't believe that we deserve to succeed, we're less likely to work hard and less likely to be successful in the future. The same also goes for our perceptions of others' successes. We're quick to look for excuses as to why our peers outperformed us. We have a tendency to ascribe their success to external factors. But when we do so, not only do we come off extremely bitter, we also harm our relationships and our growth. We've all heard that same story. She only got that job because she's black. He only got into that school because he's gay. She only won that election because she played the woman card. Well, maybe not that last one, but regardless, nobody wants to hear their success reduced to the result of tokenism. But sadly, for many women, minorities, and other marginalized groups, these judgments are common. And these comments reflect our external locus of control, our desire to pass the buck, and our proclivity for luck. Now, despite their many shortcomings, luck and superstition are not exactly forces of evil. For instance, I didn't bomb my SAT because I brought my lucky pencil. I bombed my SAT because I only brought my lucky pencil, and not the confidence or skill that comes from preparation. So with this crucial distinction and some common sense solutions, we can finally start to take control of our lives and our luck. First, we have to take responsibility for our failures as well as credit for our successes. In order to understand why a situation happened the way it did, we have to understand what we did right as well as what we did wrong. This could be as simple as writing down a list of good and bad moments and the role we played in each one. It's possible to internalize our locus of control by reinforcing these internally oriented behaviors. Next, we have to roll with the punches and be flexible. As we discussed earlier, our affinity for luck comes from a desire to control the uncontrollable. But when we recognize that there are certain events and situations in our lives that are simply outside our influence, we're on our way to becoming more self-reliant people. Finally, and most importantly, we have to create our own luck, because really, that's all we can do. Instead of worrying about lucky charms or superstitions or everything that's left up to chance, we should focus on studying for that exam, preparing for that job interview, or running your TEDx speech for the 500th time. Then, and only then, can we be confident knowing we did everything in our power to be successful. It's like Louis Pasteur once said, "Fortune favors the prepared mind." So today, we intensely studied why we believe in luck, actually picked up the books to discover how this impacts us, and finally, put it all together to ace the test and solve this problem once and for all. So, I registered to take the SAT again, and I've already started prepping. I switched out my rabbit's foot for a prep book and my four-leaf clover for a tutor, but I think I'll bring along my lucky pencil. You know, just because I'm a little bit stitious. Thank you.